Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out my channel. So the video that you're about to see is a video that I actually made a little while ago for a different channel, but I'm uploading it here on my own channel so that way I can make some follow-up videos that maybe go into some of the things I talk about in more detail. In this video I talk to you about how to make money as a musician. Now this thing goes, I think personally, for any kind of musician, whether you play piano, violin, guitar. However, I did make it originally with the idea of a guitarist, specifically a classical guitarist in mind. Anyway, let's get started. So if you have, or maybe you currently are thinking about becoming a professional musician, chances are you've heard from somebody that there are no jobs in music. And what I want to tell you in this video is that they're kind of right, but they're also kind of wrong. Yes, making a living as a musician is very difficult. Yes, there are a lot less jobs in music. But in a way, there's also more jobs for musicians than there are for other fields of work. The reason why this is because as a musician, there's so many different things that you can do. Yes, everybody thinks of things such as playing concerts and teaching lessons, and those are pretty common, but there's also things such as playing for musicals, or playing for weddings, or maybe playing in restaurants or art galleries, maybe working as a session musician, maybe even working in a church, whether it's the same one every single week, or maybe a different one every single week. Either way, there's tons of opportunities out there. So when people say there's no jobs in music, I think what they mean is there's not a job that is just lying out there when you graduate, ready to say, hey, you have a degree in music, here's the job that I want you to do, it pays this much a year, and you're set for however long you want to keep that job. Because it definitely does not work that way. When you're a musician, you don't really ever have a job. You can, but many of the times you have a career. And that career can shape, grow, get smaller, get bigger, depending on what you make of it over the course of time. But that's all up to you and the work that you put in there. Because there may be no jobs in music, you have to go find your own job. You have to go create your own job. You have to go build your own job. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to find work. So the first thing I'll say is don't expect a job to come to you. You have to go find it. And that could be as simple as just asking. Finding someone and saying, hey, have you ever considered having this thing here? Whether that's live music, live guitar, whatever it is, and see what they say. Worst they can say is no. Best they can say is, why don't we give it a try? And then maybe you got your first job. The next thing I would say would be to be open to playing various kinds of music. Don't not do something just because you feel as though it might be beneath you, right? So if you're going to school for, let's say, classical or maybe jazz, don't think that you're not going to have a gig playing pop music at a wedding or a private party on the weekends. That might be the only gig that you can get, and you never know who you might meet at those gigs. And trust me, most people in their careers have done that kind of thing at one point or another, and who knows, you might actually really like doing that, so give it a try. So along the same lines of doing things that you may or may not have been expecting to do in your career, you never know who you're going to meet at those kinds of things. So be ready to network. If you don't know anybody, nobody's going to ask you or refer you for different kinds of work. For all you know, you might be playing a gig at a wedding or a restaurant, and someone there that's also a musician might hear you and think, wow, you know, this person's really good, and I think it'd be great to have them play with me sometime at my next gig. Or maybe they have a gig they can't do, and they think, wow, this person would make a great substitute for me. Either way, I would suggest putting in 100% of the time, because you never know who's listening. So when you're out there doing the thing you always wanted to do, or maybe you're doing the thing that you never wanted to do, either way, you need to know how to network. And networking is huge as a musician. If you don't network, nobody's going to know who you are, nobody's going to know what you do, and nobody's going to be able to refer you to things that they think you could do because nobody knows who you are. My personal recommendation would be to network with everyone that you can, because you never know who knows somebody else. And even if you don't like them, they could be a great connection to have, unfortunately. Now, when you do connect with somebody, you need to have your things together. You need something that you can show them so that way they can check you out later that night, or even share your information with someone else that they know that might be interested in that kind of service. In my opinion, having a good Instagram and or YouTube channel is just as important as having an electronic press kit. And yes, I would recommend to have one of those as well to hold your resume, your cover letter, and maybe some testimonials. But having good social media accounts is huge because they're so easy to access. People don't have to go digging through papers to find out more about you. They just open their phone and look up your name, and there you are. Okay, so let's say that you finally got a shot. Maybe it's a gig and you're subbing for somebody, or maybe it's a teaching position that they want to try you out as a new teacher. Either way, you need to know how to get called back. And believe it or not, getting called back isn't all about showing up and being the best musician in the room. Honestly, that's probably the least important thing. It's important, but these things are more important. Number one, you need to show up on time. Nobody's going to care if you show up and you're the best player there if you show up late. It's kind of like the old saying goes, if you're on time, then you're late, and if you're early, you're on time. That is so true as a musician. Number two, you need to show up prepared. Now this one might seem obvious, but there's tons of times that people show up for a gig or some kind of work-related thing, and they're not ready. And that leaves a huge bad impression on whoever they're working for, and chances are they're not going to get called back, so don't be that person. Number three, you need to be easy to reach. So this means being way more on top of your emails, your text messages, and your phone calls. Because sometimes getting work or not getting work can be a matter of answering the phone 10 minutes before somebody else and finding out that you were the first call, but because you didn't answer, somebody else already got the job. It happens and you don't want that to be you. Number 4 is you need to be flexible. You don't want to be the person that says yes to everything, but you also don't want to be the person that says no to everything. Because if you are, you end up in this little niche where you only get called sometimes when they need that very specific thing. And that very specific thing might not happen all too much. So what I would recommend would be to be honest. You know, worst comes to worst is you can't do the thing they asked you to do, but at least you're honest about it, you gave it a shot, and they saw that you're not that person for the job. But to me, that's a lot better than never being called, just because people might assume that you're not going to be open to doing that thing that, for all you know, you might actually be really good at. Number 5, I personally think is the most important one, and that is don't be a jerk. You could be the best guitar player in the whole entire state, but if you're a jerk, nobody's going to want to work with you, nobody's going to want to hire you, nobody's going to want to recommend you, and nobody's going to even really want to be associated with you. And the thing is, you could be the best one out there, and chances are there's tons of people that are just as good as you are, maybe a little less good, but if they're much nicer, they're going to get the calls over you. That's just how it is. So to sum all this up, being a professional musician isn't easy. You're constantly working to work. There isn't that much work out there. The work that is out there most of the time doesn't pay all that much, and there's tons of people all looking for the same exact job. But if this is something that you love to do, and you're open to doing more than one thing, such as teaching during the week, playing weddings on Friday and Saturday nights, and playing church services in the morning, then yeah, I think you can definitely make a living as a musician. Like most things in life, you have to start somewhere, and when it comes to being a professional musician, there's no clear path to success. So go out there, make your connections, create opportunities, be a decent human being, and over time, I'm sure you'll start to find work coming in. Alright, thank you so much for watching. So if you found this video helpful at all, it would be a great help to me if you would go ahead, give it a like, and leave a comment down below of things that you thought or things you wanted me to go maybe into more detail about in a future video. Now, if you want to help me even more, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.